Welcome back to my Pokemon Corner. After mastering the 151 set, I wanted to highlight all the illustration cards in its glory by ranking them. Here is a better look at all the illustrations from this set, starting with the Bulbasaur up here, and then ending off with the Giovanni's Charisma down there. I'm also going to include the promos that belong to this set with the Snorlax, Mewtwo, and Mew EX. Now this won't be a typical ranking video and you might rank these in a very different way, but I hope you still enjoyed this video. So before I get into it, each illustration card will be ranked based on complexity with the background, elements, details, storytelling, does it connect to the past, does it group together with other cards, and atmosphere for the color, balance, feeling. And this will create an overall ranking out of 5 Pokeballs. Without further ado, let's get into it. Ranked at the very bottom is Nidoking, and just to preface, I think all of these are beautiful illustration cards, but I think some deserve more recognition than others, especially if we are not looking at the value of them. So in this Nidoking, there isn't much going on, so we're gonna give it 1 Pokeball for complexity. And it looks like he's just chilling in the forest on top of a rock, so there isn't really a story. 1 Pokeball over there as well, but the art style is pretty neat and calming, which makes the card stand out, so we're going to give it 2 Pokeballs for atmosphere, and that brings our overall ranking of 1.5 Pokeballs. This is still a very beautiful illustration card, which I love. Now for the next card we have an Ammonite. Now the background complexity is on par with the Nidoking in a very different way, but I love seeing how the light or the sun shines through the waters. We're going to give it 1 Pokeball for complexity over there. And there really isn't much going on with the story except for the fact that we have an Omastar, an Ammonite, and several Kabutos in the water, so we're gonna give it 2 Pokeballs over there. And the card looks pretty balanced and is on par with the overall theme, so 2 Pokeballs for atmosphere. Now that brings us to a total overall ranking of 1.5 Pokeballs, or 1.75 actually. I think it's slightly higher than the Nidoking. Now we have a Squirrel. The complexity of this card isn't really any better than the other two, except for all the textures and details in the water, but we're still going to give it 1 Pokeball. For storytelling, Squirrel does love the beach, and I kind of wish it had worn the sunglasses, but it does connect with its evolution cards, so 2 Pokeballs over there. And the card is pretty balanced, and looking at it does make you happy. Like, look how happy Squirrel looks on the beach. So we're gonna give it 2 Pokeballs for atmosphere, giving it an overall ranking of 1.75 Pokeballs. Now on the same level, I am shoving the Blastoise here because there really isn't anything special with the background. I think it's actually less than 1 Pokeball, but it is a special illustration card, so we're gonna give it, include the texture of it into the ranking, so 1 Pokeball over there. Since this card does connect with the Squirtle and Wartortle, with Blastoise being deep down in the ocean, we're gonna give it 2 Pokeballs. And the atmosphere is very different and more serious. I mean, it is Blastoise, which works well. So I think 2 Pokeballs over there, giving it an overall ranking of 1.75 Pokeballs. Next up, we do have a Tangela, which is a super cute illustration card compared to its regular ones. The background and elements on this are super simple, so 1 Pokeball for complexity. And now there isn't really much of a storyline here, but I do love that these 2 Tangelas are hanging out with each other, one on swinging on the branch, the other one potentially pushing it. So 2 Pokeballs for story. And when we consider the art style and how the Tangelas are spending a bright sunny day, I'm going to give it 2.5 stars for atmosphere, which gives an overall ranking of 2 Pokeballs, making it such a cute card. I really love it and how it glows or shimmers in the sunlight. Now, next up, we do have the Mr. Mime. I was super excited when I pulled this card because I do like chess, but for complexity, there isn't really much going on, and it looks like the main elements here is concrete floor. So 1 Pokeball. For storytelling, it doesn't connect to other cards, similar to the Tangela, but they are playing chess together, and they look very anxious. So 2 Pokeballs over there, and because of such a cute factor on a sunset day, everything is really well balanced and fitting, so 2.5 stars or Pokeballs for Atmosphere, which gives the Mr. Mime an overall ranking of 2 Pokeballs. Alright, so next up we have the most valuable card in this set, but I think it could have had a better illustration. Charizard is flying across the canyons, which show a bunch of details with the smokes and lava coming from the volcano. So we're going to give it 2 Pokeballs for complexity. And now, since it does connect with the Charmander and Charmeleon, we're going to give it 2 Pokeballs for storytelling. And in a way, the Charizard flying across this landscape is super well done. It's super balanced, so 3 Pokeballs for Atmosphere, and this is a pretty nice card, but still think it could have been done better. Overall, 2.25 Pokeballs. And next up we have an Ivysaur. This card is a lot more complex compared to the rest. There is quite a bit of detail in the foliage over here and then also in the water. With that, I'm going to give it 2.5 Pokeballs for complexity. This card doesn't really have a good story except that it connects to evolution. So 2 Pokeballs for that. And I do give it props for making Ivysaur look back at its reflection with a cute funny face. Super well done. So 3 Pokeballs for Atmosphere, which gives it a total or overall ranking of 2.5 Pokeballs. Still a really cute card, and I love it. Next up, we have a Poliwhirl. Now, even though there isn't many elements in this card, the detail in the raindrops and puddles on the ground are amazing, especially with the light reflections. It just looks super good. So 3 Pokeballs or 4 Pokeballs for complexity. There isn't much of a storyline here except for Poliwhirl just standing there, so 1 Pokeball for that. The card is really well balanced with Poliwhirl being the center of attention, so 3 Pokeballs for Atmosphere. And it does look like Poliwhirl is enjoying the rain, and I'm going to give it an overall ranking of 2.5 Pokeballs. It's just super cute. Now, on to the next Pokemon, we have a Caterpie. Now, even though this is also in a simple background, like Caterpie is just up in a tree with all these leaves surrounding it, the detail in the leaves and how there are like 3 different additional Caterpies in there, I'm going to give it 3 Pokeballs for complexity. Caterpie is just chilling there, so 1 Pokeball for storytelling. But the use of color and how the card is framed with like the leaves, you can see it munched around, is done extremely well. So 3 Pokeballs for Atmosphere, and we're gonna give it a total ranking of 2.5 Pokeballs. I think this is super well done still. The next Pokemon we got is a Psyduck. Now, with this little Psyduck on the staircase, there is a bunch of trees surrounding it, which is a little bit detailed, but also very simple. So we're going to give it 1.5 Pokeballs for complexity. And for story, since Psyduck is always lost and experiencing its headaches, I think it's quite illustrated accurately here. So 2 Pokeballs for the story. Now, when looking at the art style and background blended all together, I think that gives it a pretty good atmosphere. So 3.5 Pokeballs for that. Even though Psyduck isn't filling up the rest of the card, I still think it's done pretty well, so a total of 2.5 Pokeball rating for this little guy. Following up, we have a beautiful Snorlax illustration that was part of the Elite Trainer box. The background on this is quite detailed but also simple. There's trees in the background, textures surrounding Snorlax, lily pads. So 3 Pokeballs for complexity. For the story, there isn't much going on except that Snorlax is always sleeping, but we do have a Diglett and a Pidgey checking out Snorlax, so 2 Pokeballs for that. Since it ties it together as a theme, I think I'm gonna give it a 3.5 Pokeball for Atmosphere and an overall 2.5 Pokeballs for the overall card. I think I gave a lot of these cards a 2.5 Pokeball rating, but I think it's just because they're pretty good, but they're not great. Now that we're halfway through the illustrations, we have a Wartortle. I think this card was done better than the Squirtle and Blastoise, since the Wartortle does look like it's exploring and enjoying itself in the ocean. There's a little bit more going on. There are reefs and other ocean elements here with the sun rays sparkling through. So 3 Pokeballs for complexity. Since it's part of the evolution, 2 Pokeballs for the story. And the card is super well balanced and fitting, so I think it deserves a 3.5 Pokeball for Atmosphere, giving it a total 2.5 Pokeball rating. Because the card isn't too special, but it isn't the worst either. Next up we have Bulbasaur. The amount of grass, foliage, and all the different plants growing where Bulbasaur is resting is so detailed, and where the sun peeps through deserves 3.5 Pokeballs for complexity. There isn't much of a storyline except for the fact that this card connects with Ivysaur and Venusaur, so 2 Pokeballs for that. But the card is super calming because we have Bulbasaur sleeping, which makes it a 3.5 Pokeball for Atmosphere, which I think gives it an overall ranking of 3 Pokeballs. I love looking at how cute Bulbasaur is. I really love it. And to finish off the Bulbasaur line, we have the Venusaur, a little less cute. I actually don't know if I would rank Bulbasaur first or second to this Venusaur. The background and sheer amount of flowers that Venusaur is surrounded by is insane. So I think it gets a 4 Pokeball for complexity. Since it is part of the evolution line, we get a standard 2 Pokeballs. For the Atmosphere, I think Venusaur being a special illustration card makes it better. The flowers look like they are shimmering, and it gives it this rainbow hollow effect. So 3.5 Pokeball for Atmosphere with an overall ranking of 3 Pokeballs. Venusaur's eyes also glow in different lights when you shine it. But next up we do have the Charmeleon. The background and elements on this card isn't super simple, but not complicated either, so 2 Pokeballs. Charmeleon has always been known for being mean to Ash, and the face that is illustrated here is quite accurate, and it seems like Charmeleon being on this cliff platform is a sign of rebellion and not listening, so 3.5 Pokeballs for story. The card does connect with Charmander and Charizard, and the theme is on par, so 3.5 Pokeballs for Atmosphere with an overall rating of 3 Pokeballs. Next up we have Mewtwo. Now this is a super dark card that is quite detailed with the building and misty clouds. I think that's some misty clouds or fog in the background in the corners of the card, which I think deserve a 3 Pokeball for complexity. For the storyline, it feels like this card came straight out of Genesect and the Legend Awakened, which is pretty sick. I think because of that, I'm giving it 4 Pokeballs for storytelling. Since fighting in the city is the theme and it feels like a serious battle, I'm only giving 3 Pokeballs for atmosphere because this card doesn't really pull you in, which gets it an overall 3.25 Pokeball rating. Next up, we do have a Dragonair. The environment that Dragonair is in looks like an abandoned castle from long ago, so there is plenty of detail in the pillars, railings, and water, which deserve a 3.5 Pokeball for complexity. For the story, there isn't much to connect it to. The closest resemblance I have is from episode 35, which definitely is not the same background, so 2 Pokeballs for that. The overall card feels very serene and beautiful, which gets it an automatic 4 Pokeballs, adding up to 3.25 Pokeball rating. This is a very beautiful card. Now, onto the Mew EX that shows Mew flying across a town. The details added to each part of the card is done extremely well, as it shows a slice of life from a person enjoying tea out a window, children playing and eating ice cream. Like, there is so many elements going on in this simple art style that it gets 3.5 Pokeballs. For storytelling, it seems like there isn't much to say except that it looks like the pink-haired person saw Mew flying and is shocked by it, so it gets a simple 2 Pokeballs. And the use of pinks with the sunset that is happening in this illustration really tie it all together, which I think deserves 4 Pokeballs for atmosphere with an overall rating of 3.5 Pokeballs. The texture on this card I have is also really good, like you can feel the textures immediately. Next up, we have a Charmander. The complexity of this card is very simple and is almost exactly the same as Charmeleon, so it gets 2 Pokeballs. For a story, I love that Charmander is sitting on top of the rock where Ash, Misty, and Brock found it, and the Charmander's expression on this illustration looks sad like it was in the episode, so it gets 4 Pokeballs for storytelling. There is also a good balance between the reds showing how canyons really look, and the background depth is really nice, so we're giving it 4.5 Pokeballs per atmosphere with an overall rating of 3.5 Pokeballs. Whenever I look at this card, all I think about is the abandoned Charmander, which is really sad. The next card we have is a trainer card, Erica's Invitation. The intricate details of the flowers, perfumes, and flower-related items in the room or store is amazing, which gets 4.5 Pokeballs for complexity. Erica is the gym leader, but she is also a student for flower arrangement, which looks like it makes total sense. It gets 3 Pokeballs for storytelling. As this is a special illustration card and it looks like Erica is in her element, it gets 3 Pokeballs for atmosphere and a total of 3.5 Pokeballs for the card. The next super fun card we have is Machoke. Now, talk about complexity. We have 5 Machokes helping with the move-in process, a Meowth outside the window on a neighbor's roof, Pidgeys in the trees, so I think that gets 4.5 to 5 Pokeballs. The storytelling is really on par with how Machokes have their own moving company, like they even had a commercial for their service, so 4 Pokeballs for story. And since the card has so much going on that it looks a little chaotic, I'm gonna give 4 Pokeballs for atmosphere. And I love how the Machokes are super helpful and they look like they're having fun, so overall a 4 Pokeball rating. The next card we have is Zapdos EX. Right away you can see how much detail went into this card, especially with the clouds and how you can see the land right from this height, which I'm giving 4.5 Pokeballs. For the storytelling, Zapdos is united with the 2 other legendary birds, Articuno and Moltres, making it feel right as they are the legendary trio. You can also see this being part of the Power of One movie. It's just missing Lugia. But with the legendary birds flying at max speed, the atmosphere deserves 4 Pokeballs and an overall 4.25 Pokeball rating. Next up is what I think the top 3 illustrated cards are. We have Giovanni's Charisma in number 3, a card that I never expected to look this good. The background of Giovanni has so much detail, from the showcase of Pokeballs to the building window and items on his desk, which deserves 4 Pokeballs, as Giovanni has always been petting Persian by his side whenever he talks with Team Rocket. I love the way Persian nestles his head on Giovanni's chest, so this gets 4.5 Pokeballs for storytelling. And the feeling that this card gives is that you know Giovanni's cooking up a plan, or that's what it feels like to me. It gets 4.5 Pokeballs for atmosphere and a total rating of 4.5 Pokeballs. A truly beautiful trainer illustration. Up in second place, we have the Pikachu. Now this has to be the busiest and most detailed card there is, with the Nidorans, Pidgeys, Psyduck, Blastoise, Growlithe, Jiggly, Gengar, and every Pokemon and trainer woven together in one card, which gets 5 Pokeballs. Now the storytelling on this card is quite different. In many season openings, you have Pikachu running with Ash through their adventures, and it feels like this is what is happening here. But it seems like there is a story for each of the Pokemon here, which deserves 4.5 Pokeballs. And with such a fun card that integrates the entire community, it gets 5 Pokeballs for atmosphere. A truly beautiful card that is focused on Pikachu, but every other Pokemon, so it gets 4.75 Pokeball rating. Now, you might be surprised at what I have as the best illustrated card. We have Alakazam. I don't think a lot of people wanted to catch Alakazam, but this card is pretty amazing. There are so many elements, dishes, clocks, books, and potions all around Alakazam that it gets 5 Pokeballs. For storytelling, for me, it looks like Alakazam is making his spoons, which I never realized is something he does with his psychic powers, but that's exactly what he is doing in this illustration. So it gets 5 Pokeballs. Usually psychic Pokemon are in a dark environment, but this Alakazam is in a room with the light shining through, and I think it's super well balanced. It gets 5 Pokeballs as well, with an overall rating of 5 Pokeballs. I really love how the illustration cards were all done. They were so beautiful, and I think the cards that I listed are pretty well illustrated but underrated. Some you might be surprised that I placed so high, but in total we had 26 illustration cards, and here is an overview on how I ranked them. This is a very different video, and I really appreciate you for watching until the very end. So if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Until next time, bye!